Hey, what's going on, heroes? Pojiforce here. Today we're going to be talking about RPGs. And RPGs are role-playing games. Now, I said before that I'm a big fan of RPGs, especially those that allow you to customize and personalize your character. So I tend to play a lot of tabletop RPGs, or at least I play a lot of one RPG. And I play a lot of Pathfinder. Now, for those of you who don't know what Pathfinder is basically, I'm sure most of you know what Dungeons and Dragons is. Pathfinder is the 3.5 edition of Dungeons and Dragons, and they expanded on that and modified it, and instead of going the same direction that 4.0 did, they went a different direction with it and came out with a different game system. Over the past few years, Pathfinder has actually come out with a lot of different books, but the most important book is the core rulebook. Like any other game, the core rulebook is the most important book. This is the hardcover. You can pick this up at your local game store for about $50. My recommendation, though, if you don't mind a smaller print size, is that you can actually get what they call the pocket edition. It doesn't really fit in your pocket. It's a paperback, smaller print. It's got all the same content, and this one goes for about $25. So I actually really love this one. I use this one personally. Ever since I got this one, I no longer use my large hardback version because this is a lot easier to carry around. But that will give you the basics for Pathfinder. What I want to go into today is Pathfinder Society and character creation. Pathfinder Society is basically Pathfinder's organized play. And they have a lot of rules. And I'm going to put a link in the description below where you can set up an account and find the rules for Pathfinder Society. There's a lot of rules, and I can't even really go over all of them. It's like a 50-page document. That's an exaggeration, more like 40-page document, but it's a pretty big document. There's a lot of rules, and that's assuming you already know the rules for the game. So you need to learn the game first. I'm doing a great job of talking you guys into playing this game, aren't I? There's a lot of rules, but it's a really fun game, and there's a lot of room to modify and specialize your character. So I thought we would go into character creation so I can at least show you some of that. So what I have here is Hero Lab. And Hero Lab is a special program. It's not affiliated with Paizo, or the company that owns Pathfinder, but they do have a system on Hero Lab that allows you to track and build your characters. So here we have, basically I have things set up: a hero name, a player name, Pathfinder Society ID number, and character number. I'm not going to put my Society ID number in here because I'm probably not going to use this character. I currently have like 13 or 14 characters that I play I rotate around, but my Pathfinder Society characters, I have a lot of them. And we've toggled on Pathfinder Society Organized Play characters, so that way we follow the Pathfinder Society Organized Play rules. We are a hero, we always start at level 1, and we have 150 gold pieces to start. So let's decide what we're going to build today, because it's not, for me, it's not just about the class, it's also about character design, history. I'll do something that may not be the most efficient way to build a character, but it'll be fun from a story perspective, because storytelling is very important to me. So let's take a look at what classes we have available. So Alchemist, Arcanist, Barbarian, Unchained Barbarian, that's a special alternate version of the class, because Pathfinder did come out with an Unchained book, which basically kind of helps, it was basically to buff certain classes that they felt needed it. And so the Unchained versions of classes are available. There's also the regular versions. They're still available. And then they have a lot of, look at some of this stuff. Gunslinger, Inquisitor, Investigator, Kineticist, Magus, Medium, Mesmerist, Samurai, Shaman, Skull. There's a lot of classes. Most of these are not core classes. In fact, I should mention, if you're going to pick up Hero Lab for yourself, most of these classes are not going to be preloaded. You're going to have to buy the additional content to have these classes. But there's a lot of things here. Now let's see. Have I built a paladin before? No, I haven't. I haven't built a monk before either, though. So let's do a monk. Let's do an Unchained monk, because Unchained is generally better. So we're gonna do an Unchained monk. Okay, now at first level you always start with your maximum hit die. An Unchained monk has a D10 or 10-sided hit die. Normally how hit die work is that when you roll the hit die, when you level up, you roll your hit die, and whatever number you roll, that's how many HP you get for that level. But Pathfinder Society does it a little differently. They want to make sure that people don't get boned out of hit points. So, but they also don't want you to be super bulky and have all the hit points in the world either. So first level, you always receive the maximum value for your hit die, and then every level afterward, you get what's called the average, in which in most cases it's half plus 1. So if I were to level up to the second level, our monk would have currently 10 plus 6, 16 hit points, plus favored bonuses. Your character has a favored class. So whenever you take a level in your favored class, by default it's usually the first level, you get one of a number of things. You get 1 hit point or 1 skill point. And depending on your race, you can also get other bonuses. We haven't selected a race yet. We started with what we want to be, and that is a monk. And let's see what monk archetypes we have. An archetype is basically a further specialization and alteration to the class. So what archetypes do we have for monk? Let's just type monk up here and see what we get. Okay. Now, it may not let me do anything because, oh, that's right, I forgot. Because the Unchained Monk has a different ability skill set than the regular monk, most of the archetypes that would normally be available for monk are actually unavailable for the Unchained Monk. That doesn't apply for the Unchained Barbarian. Unchained Barbarian can use a lot of the same archetypes. But if I wanted to show you archetypes, this is not the class to do it with. That's okay. Notice here it says we have 3 XP to go to hit level 2. You may think that's not a whole lot. How Pathfinder Society works is that every time you sit down at a table with a character, you play through a scenario with a party. It may not be the same people every time, or if it is the same players, it may not be the same characters. That's kind of the fun of Pathfinder Society. It's like you're all working for this organization where you go out and explore, and your characters are called in by faction heads called venture captains, and they give you an assignment. You go out and you do it, and you have this group of adventurers that you're with, and then you're like, cool, we did the job, nice seeing you. You part ways. Maybe you'll see them again, maybe you won't. It's a living, breathing world, and actually if you want to take a look at the world that Pathfinder Society is taking place in, it's called Golarion. I recommend getting the Inner Sea World Guide, because that basically gives you a rundown of everything in Golarion. Plus it gives you a really cool map. I've got folded up in my binder right here. This isn't the full map. Again, it's just folded up. I'm not going to unfold the whole thing because it's already tearing. I've only had the map for a couple days and it's already tearing. It's a paper map, but it's a really cool map. Anyway, so that's how leveling up works. Every scenario is worth 1 experience point. So you play 3 scenarios, you level up. And the experience to level up doesn't change with leveling up. It's always 3 XP to level up. So you play 3 scenarios, you level up. You play 3 more scenarios, you level up. When you hit level 12, you become what's called a Seeker. And basically you're a veteran agent of the Pathfinder Society, and that character can only participate in special missions. And at which point you end up, I mean, none of my characters are Seeker yet, but I've got a couple that are very close. It's nice to have characters in different level ranges performing different jobs. Background is where we choose our race, our alignment, and our deity. Now, because we are a monk, we have to be lawful something. So I think lawful neutral is a good balanced one. Let's see, race. All right, so we got the core races here. Let's just pare this down to things that are legal for society play. We have certain featured races and uncommon races. So basically we have animal races. We've got the Wang, which is basically, think a deep gnome. It's a very small creature with dark gray skin with long spindly limbs. And the Nagaji are basically serpent folk without tails. They're kind of like weird offspring of Nagas. Kitsune or Kitsune, fox people, you know, the traditional fox person. Undine are outsiders. Outsiders are what they call people from other planes. They're extraplanar, and they're from the plane of water. Tingus, black feathered bird crow people. Master swordsman. I have a ranger who's a Tingu. Sylph are air spirits, Oreads are earth spirits, and Ifrits are fire spirits. They're basically, well, to put it more precisely, it's more like they're half mortal race with, or they're like human with blood from that race, from the outsider race. I'm not exactly sure how, you know, someone breeds with a fire elemental, but I guess it works. Wisdom is a very important stat for uh, the monk, because wisdom determines their bonus armor class, and wisdom determines their difficulty class on their saving throw for a skill that they have called Stunning Fist. We'll get into that in a minute here. So we want good wisdom and either good dexterity or strength, because we want because monks cannot wear armor. It's in their character class that they simply have no armor proficiency. So if they were to wear armor, they incur a huge number of penalties. So we want something that's got good wisdom. That's charisma and dexterity, not particularly good. Half-orcs, half-elves, and humans all basically get to choose one of their ability scores, and they get 2 points in it. Humans are usually like one of the best all-around races because they have a lot of flexibility. They get a bonus feat, and a feat is like a special talent that you get every other level. Humans get another one at the first level, whereas everyone else only gets one. And then they also have skilled, so they get an extra skill point every level, which allows them more flexibility outside of combat. Ifrit, while the description of them seems to fit a monk, muscular, fiery-skinned man, the cut to wisdom is a big deal. Oread would actually be a good monk, but I'm not a fan of them. They're kind of short and squat. They're kind of like dwarves, really. They're short and squat, but they're not small enough to be considered a small race. It's considered a medium-sized race. So let's see here. Dexterity, constitution, wisdom, dexterity. Tengus make good monks. The cut to constitution makes them a little squishy. You can choose to build your monk basically one of two ways. You can go high strength for huge offensive power, or you can go high dexterity and combination with your wisdom modifier to be very difficult to hit. But the trade-off there is that there's a feat that allows you to use your dexterity to make you better to hit your target, but it's not going to improve your damage any. So usually a good balance between strength and dexterity is the way to go. Alright. I think we may just go human. We'll go human. Because, like I said, it's a very flexible class and it gives us a lot of room. We're not going to choose our +2 to ability scores yet. We're going to choose our ethnicity. And these are the ethnicities available. Each of them kind of represents a different region of the Inner Sea. They're also kind of like generalized. Like, for example, the Tianshu is basically your Oriental. Taldanians are kind of like Europeaners who... I don't even know if I said that word right. Mwangi is like the Amazon jungle. Gurundi are basically your African descent. Chalaxian are actually more like your Europeaners, except yeah. Varisians are kind of like your what's the word? Gypsies. Ulfin, kind of like best way to describe them. Vikings, Irishmen, things like that. Shoanti, they're kind of like the Aztecs. Let's see. I kind of want our man to be Gurundi. I want a dark-skinned man for this. Alright, and that gives them Osiriani as a bonus language. Osiriani is the language of a desert-dwelling people, a long-dead kingdom, I believe. But, so yeah, the Gurundis are basically Africans. Specifically Egyptians, but yeah. So, let's see here. These are the gods that are available to us, and you can see on the right-hand side that we have alignments. We got lawful, neutral, lawful, evil. Now, I have a favorite for monks, and it's really the favored god of monks, and that is Irori. Irori is the god of history, knowledge, and self-perfection. And basically, Irori was a human man, a Vudrani, who basically trained himself and perfected himself to a point that he actually obtained godhood. And basically, he teaches self-perfection through discipline. And basically that his neutrality comes in that he doesn't really align good or evil. He just basically focuses on each person has their own path to self-perfection, and each person can pursue that path, and that is good. Now, whether or not that path would hinder the path of another person questions whether or not it's a path worth taking. But, self-awareness leads to discipline, and eventually mastery, whereas ignorance forces the spirit to repeat its mistakes in the next life. So it's about being wise, being intelligent, and improving yourself. And monks are really all about that discipline and self-improvement. And monks are about high wisdom. Irori is probably the way to go, to be honest. All right. So next we'll select a faction. A lot of these factions are no longer available because factions change as that's another cool thing, is that each season Pathfinder Society releases basically a new season, and they have a new story arc for the scenarios and a new overarching plot line. So it's really cool. The game actually changes. I've been told there's scenarios where, when reported, they keep track of how many parties did this and how many parties did this. And it would actually impact the overall story of the world depending on which plot development happened more often in Society games. So it's really cool. Dark Archive, basically, they're kind of like the former bad guys. Like their leader is this woman who's kind of a sadomasochist. She's very sexual, and she likes using whips and tying people down. But they've kind of become a little more good aligned. Their goal right now is basically to capture and sequester away evil and forbidden magic. And that is partially to protect it from people who shouldn't have it, and also so that way they can study it and learn its secrets. Grand Lodge is the default Pathfinder Society faction. Grand Lodge is basically the society itself, where the whole goal here is to go out and explore, document, and report back. Liberty's Edge is all about freeing slaves. That's the easiest way to put them. They're the Underground Railroad. They even have like traits and things like that to basically describe them as the Underground Railroad. They're about speaking out against slavery. The Scarab Sages are kind of like an Osirian faction, where there's like special sage gems that choose. It's kind of like, the best way to describe it is that it's kind of like the Green Lanterns, where they have gems that choose who's to be a new sage, and with the sages comes the memories of all sages past. And the Scarab Sages are basically agents within Pathfinder Society who are using the resources of the Pathfinder Society to try to find the other sages, to try to find all the sages to help bring back the glorious age of Osirian. Silver Crusade, they're basically people like, we're going to use these resources to do good things. We're going to be great people. We're going to, yes, free the slaves like Liberty's Edge. We're also going to feed the hungry, help the helpless, destroy demons and evil things wherever they lurk, things like that. Sovereign Court is basically trying to use the society to help deal with the decadence of the aristocracy. They're about trying to reunite the nobility, to bring back the kingdom of Taldor, the empire of Taldor, and trying to get rid of the evil and corruption that has dragged Taldor down. And the exchange is just looking to make money. They're here to make business ties, garner favors, and use it to expand their trade and grow in economic power. So for this character, because we're looking at a monk, I haven't really thought of a background for him yet, but I would think either the Silver Crusade, Scarab Sages, because that's kind of his part of the world too, or Grand Lodge. Dark Archive also potentially too, because it's a matter of responsibility. Liberty's Edge maybe not so much, because Liberty's Edge can sometimes be non-lawful, because they can go to kingdoms where slavery is legal and they're speaking out against it, and monks don't want to stir up trouble like that. Sovereign Court doesn't really suit him. Exchange definitely doesn't suit him. Honestly, I think Grand Lodge is probably just the way to go. Just want to explore and perfect ourselves and try to develop our abilities and our talents. So now we're going to talk about abilities. These are our ability scores here. 10 is the base value, and at 10, all of our bonuses are 0. Strength determines how hard you hit and how well you hit with melee weapons. Dexterity determines how well you hit with ranged weapons and how good you are at dodging attacks. Constitution is basically how sturdy you are, how good you are at resisting poisons and diseases, and how much health you have. Intelligence is how smart you are, and that relates to how many skills you have. Wisdom is basically your awareness and your ability to resist magical tampering with your mind. And charisma is just how likable you are and how well you can use that, basically, that likability to influence others. Charisma is not really that important to this character. Wisdom is very important because that awareness is kind of like a spidey sense for us, because monks gain the ability at first level to apply wisdom to their armor class and combat maneuver defense. They also get flurry blows, stunning fist, weapon, monk proficiencies, and unarmed strikes. That's about all we get. So we get 20 points to work with, and the way this works is that 1 point up is 1 point, 1 point, and now at this point it becomes 2 points, 2 points, 3 points, 3 points, 4 points. And that leaves us with 3 points left over. 3 points left over is not going to do a whole lot. So basically this discourages us from going straight to 18 on a wisdom. Now 13 is a good spot to start because that's just 3 points. We can also do the same for strength and dex, because that's going to determine our other things such as our ability to dodge damage, etc., etc. A couple points in con for a little more health. We'll do a couple points in intelligence. Charisma doesn't matter to us. We're not really going to be a charismatic person. So which ones do we want to improve more? We can try to get strength up, dex up, and wisdom up. I like to do more dexterity than strength personally, but we could also do it like that. And put 1 more point into Constitution. And this seems like a good place to start. We got decent strength so we can hit hard, we can do good stuff. Some dexterity to help us dodge attacks, wisdom to also help us dodge attacks. And we got Constitution for more health. Actually, we could probably go without the extra intelligence. How many skill points do we get per level? We get 5. It's not a whole lot, but actually, if we go back over here, I tend to favor a bonus skill point. And now that we have our race picked, we get to see our third favored bonus, which in this case is 1/4 of a key point. So key points don't even really, I don't think, happen until 3rd level or 4th level. I don't really think that's worth it, to be honest. I favor skill points, because skill points determine how effective you are at doing other things other than... Whoa, what did my mouse just do? Whoa, that was weird. Okay, so we got 2 points left to play with. We could do that. I think that's the way to go, because that way we are a little harder to hit. We still got good strength. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. So we get a bonus feat at 1st level, and we could do dodge for a little more armor class, improved grapple. We have to decide how we want this character to work. Now, there's throw anything, so basically you could be a master thrower. I kind of don't want to do that. Deflect arrows, combat reflexes, additional attacks or opportunity. Could be fun. I think dodge might be the way to go. Now, the great thing about building a Pathfinder Society character is that if you're still at 1st level, you can actually modify your character pretty much as you want. It's only when you've played your character for the first time after 1st level, 2nd level or higher, that you're locked into your choices. So dodge is a great place to start. And let's see, monk vows. Monk vows are interesting because they allow you to modify your key pool. We have no key pool yet, so we can't actually choose those. And we get our skills, we get our feats. Now, traits are what I usually end up using to inform how I want the character to work. So before we choose our feats, let's choose our traits. And let's see what we have as far as Aurori traits. Traits that relate to our god. Wisdom in the flesh. Hours of meditation on imperfection and the nature of strength. The speed allows you to focus your thoughts to achieve your own body. Might not normally be able to select any strength, constitution, or dexterity-based skill. And may make checks for that skill using a wisdom modifier instead of your skill's normal ability score. Currently, my strength, dexterity, and wisdom are all +2, so that's not going to be too useful. Seer of reality. You have a deep understanding of the world around you, and thus you are more perceptive about what belongs and what does not. Saving throws against illusion magic. Okay. Centered. You make it difficult for others to dominate you. Against charms and compulsions. I kind of like that. Attempts to use the intimidate skill and you increases by 1. Okay. I like that. So we're going to add centered. We're a very centered, very calm, very focused, balanced person with this monk. So let's see. Worldly? Yeah, I kind of like that. We could do worldly. So the idea is that we've traveled a lot and we've seen the world. So it's kind of like a valid principle here since we're talking about Grand Lodge. A monk who's in Grand Lodge, he travels the world to perfect himself. He's found his center and he's trying to basically just continue on this path of self-perfection. Now his history is going to further inform his feat choices. I've had characters who are mercenaries who eventually go on to basically become paladins. Not really a paladin, but they've become so devout to their god that they're almost a paladin. They've got pretty much everything a paladin at first level does, at least, just through magical items. Then I have a ex-pirate turned merchant smuggler rogue, who's a small halfling who likes to dance around people and throw them off balance and then stab them in the butt. And then I have a oracle, who is a Tianese woman who comes from a warrior family who's ashamed of her choosing to not lead a warrior's life. Instead, she likes to heal people, and she's a storyteller, and she likes to basically, she's a pacifist in the sense that she doesn't like to do damage. She wants to hang back, heal the party, let them be the heroes, and then tell their story later. So what are we going to do with this guy? What are we going to do with this guy? Perception is good. We're going to make that a skill. Sense motive is good. We're going to make that a skill. Now, skill points, you can only put as many skills into skill points as you have, what's the word? As you have levels. So I can as a first level character, I can only add 1 level, 1 rank to each skill. So let's see. We could give him a craft. No, not a craft. Profession. So what seems like a good profession for a monk? Gladiator could be a good one. Like perhaps he fights in the gladiatorial ring also as a means to further improve himself as a monk. I think gladiator is what we want here. Profession gladiator. Because that way he's got a day job. Day jobs are these things where basically your character's means of making money when they're not doing jobs for the society. Intimidate might be good for the same reason. Even though he doesn't really have a charisma score, Intimidate might be good. And then I think the last 2 we will put in our knowledges. Knowledge history and knowledge religion. So those are our 6 skill points. So now we've kind of fleshed out our character a little bit. He's well-traveled, and he likes to fight in gladiatorial arenas. This is all to further improve himself. So, let's see. Gladiator. Let's see what feats we can find that relate to being a gladiator. A champion, but that's not available to society players. Okay. Let's cross off everything that's not valid. Steadfast personality. I just saw that, and that just sounds like this guy. Steadfast personality. Okay, that doesn't actually apply to this character at all. Alright, that's fine. Self-sufficient. Okay, that sounds neat, but not really fitting this character. Pummeling style is a combat style. When I use a full attack action of 4 blows to make multiple attacks against a component with non strikes, total the damage from all hits before applying damage reduction. That is actually really cool. That is actually really cool. That's a really great way to stack damage and try to make sure that you get through damage reduction. Damage reduction is this stat where basically is that if you don't meet certain damage type requirements, they're subtracting from your damage. So if it says, for example, DR5/Cold Iron, that means that all of your damage for each attack is reduced by 5 unless your weapon is made out of cold iron. Monk's fists can count as certain types of weapons as they level up, but having a means to just power through damage reduction like that is really cool. And it seems like something that a monk would use in the gladiatorial ring. It's like he finds the guy's one weakness and then he just pounds it, hits it real hard, just bah bah bah, and then it's done, and then it puts him to the ground. So pummeling style, I like. We're gonna add that. Now I think we need a little bit more armor class for this character because he's AC 15, and that's not very high at all because he does not get any kind of armor. There's magical items and stuff that you can use to improve your armor, but until we get that, we are a very, very squishy person. So Cosmopolitan might be nice. That could give us more class skills, which I like. Gives us more languages. That's about living in large cities, though. And that, well, I'm sure he's more of a worldly traveler. So, Enforcer? That kind of works with this whole idea, too, of being a gladiator. So that we could have an Intimidator who is about basically for free, because since he's a monk, he can do non-lethal damage with his fists, and that actually makes him more capable of doing non-lethal, because normally punching somebody, an unarmed strike, is non-lethal damage that provokes attacks of opportunity. Basically, your opponent gets to hit you back for trying it. Monks have the privilege where your opponent doesn't get to do that, and they can choose whether or not their unarmed strikes are lethal or non-lethal. So this would give me an option to not only basically intimidate those that I punch, but also give me the ability to do so without provoking an attack of opportunity. So I think Enforcer is the way to go. It's going to leave me a little squishy. And we already chose Dodge over here anyway, so we already had Dodge. Okay. So now we have ourselves our monk. And there's not a whole lot of gear that we can buy with our 150 gold pieces. We can get a monk's kit, which will get us basically most of the things that we need. Backpack, belt pouch, blanket, rope, soap. Torches are useless, honestly, but whatever. In fact, at this point, we could probably just hold off on buying gear. We can hold off on buying gear. There's a whole lot of gear. I'm not sure what we would need. We could maybe get a potion of Cure Light Wounds. I think that might be a way to go, because they're only worth 50 gold pieces. Potion of Cure Light Wounds. We'll buy one of those, just to have. And this is a monk, I think, who is going to focus mainly on using his unarmed strike, because, I mean, yeah, the gladiatorial ring can have weapons in it, but actually, if we're talking about him being a gladiator, let's change these traits. Let's focus his traits on the fact that he's spent a lot of time as a gladiator. So let's see what we have here for someone who's a gladiator. Mock gladiator. Wow. That kind of gives me the enforcer thing automatically. That's cool. I could already do that though with enforcer. And that's only when scoring a critical hit. So that's cool, but not really what I'm looking for. Imposing Scion. That doesn't really help me here. Maybe in his early life he was a criminal, turned to the gladiatorial ring, found discipline there, because that's going to help us with our intimidate, because the idea here now is that we're going to punch people into the ground and use it to that's not particularly useful for us, but I happen to like it. You haven't been traditionally educated. Seer of reality. Let's cut this down to what we can use. So let's see. Faith. Inspired. Prophesied, Sacred Conduit, Sacred Touch, Spirit Sense, Tireless, Avenger. Gain knowledge local as a class skill. Select one of the following subdomains using normal rules for subdomains, so long as your deity grants access to its associated domain. Competition, duels, education, espionage, fortification, industry, legion, plague, riot. Not really. Not really. Self-taught scholar. Interesting, but not really for this character. Okay, so I forgot we get factions. Okay. Teaching mistake. Okay. Okay. So the idea here is that, so as you can see, we're slowly developing this character. Our Syrian man here, or I suppose, what's the name of the actual ethnicity? Garundi man here. Our Garundi is a man who probably grew up poor on the streets and resorted to a lot of basically bullying, and was probably basically a strong man for a group of kids. And as he got older, he realized the responsibility of looking after these children and kind of felt the weight of that responsibility. And it forced him to seek discipline of sorts. And I think he started maybe fighting in gladiatorial rings to help feed the other kids, because basically they're a pack of wild street urchins. And as things developed, yeah, there we go. Now we got that spark. We got that spark now. So he was basically the leader of a group of homeless kids, and they would steal and intimidate and do what they could to basically get by. They were a group of small criminals basically, but they were doing what they could to get by. And maybe he got captured by one of the guards or something, or maybe something happened to one of the kids, but it made him feel responsible for the other kids in his group, and he wanted a better life for them. So what he could do is that as he got older, because how old is he? Let's go to personal. Let's roll up his age. He's male. Roll up his age. 21. 6 feet. Yeah, that's appropriate for an intimidating man. 190 pounds. He gets captured, and we'll say he gets captured by a guard, and the guard basically who is someone who cares, and is like, dude, you need to realize that you're an influence to these other children, and you're leading them down a dark path, and once they grow up, that dark path is going to lead them to be some very dangerous people. It's one thing to just look out for them. It's another thing to basically raise people to be monsters. So he realizes the responsibility of what he's doing, and he tries to fly right, and he basically ends up joining the Temple of Aurori. And maybe he starts doing gladiatorial fights because it's a way to earn money, and he wants to do good. So actually, you know what? We're still looking for a trait, aren't we? He's still a very intimidating man, and he knows how to use that intimidation factor of himself, especially his history as basically a crime boss for a group of younger kids. And he uses that in the ring to help him earn money. And so he's trying to basically, A, be a positive example for these kids, B, still provide for them, and maybe his end goal is that he'll use, in the hopes of perfecting himself, he also develops the means to maybe create a proper home for these boys, like a home for the homeless youth, where he can train them, maybe like a temple or something, and he can teach them the discipline that he's learned. I like that story. It's kind of rough, but it's a first level character. It will develop if we were to play this character, it would develop as we go. I may actually keep this character. He's starting to sound fun. This is a guy who likes kids. This is a guy who cares very much about the youth and about them learning their potential and being better than they see themselves as. It's like, oh, you're a street urchin living on the street, and you think that you have to get by stealing and killing and robbing. And he's like, no, man, I'm going to help you out. I can show you a better way. Let's do it. We can do this together. I like this guy. I like him. We still need another bullied. +1 trait bonus on attacks opportunity. Attack rolls made with unarmed strikes. Huh. I like that. Because maybe as a kid, yeah, he was a leader of a group of kids, but, he's not the only guy out there. Get bullied by maybe the adult thugs who are out on the street. Or just get bullied by everyday people who recognize them as thugs and is like, get out of here, you little punk kid. We don't want you here. Shove him out the store. Doesn't matter if he's there as a real customer or if he's there as a thief. He's going to shove him out the store. I like bullied. Bullied makes sense for him. And that means that we could take, because we have good dexterity, we could eventually take the combat reflexes feat, which allow us extra attacks of opportunity. And then we could do bullied, which would allow us to get a +1 trait bonus on attacks of opportunities made with unarmed strikes, which we're going to do because we're a monk. And then we have enforcer, so when we hit, we can choose to do non-lethal damage, which then intimidates. So actually, because we're talking about doing good, we're going to change our faction. Grand Lodge, no. Because we're talking about doing some good with what we're capable of. So we're going to do Silver Crusade. And our +2 is to Wisdom. I think Wisdom determines the DC on our Stunning Fist. Yes, it does. Okay, so we can do Stunning Fist once a day, because it's a number of times per day equal to our level. So we've got our finished character here, basically. We've got a character who started out as a young boy, maybe living in a big city like Absalom or Magnamar. He was homeless for one reason or another. I believe probably his parents were killed by raiders. And with nowhere to go, he ended up taking to street crime, intimidation factors. He was a big guy. Even in his youth, he was a big man. And other homeless kids basically flocked to him for protection. And they started basically following his example and doing street crimes. And he gets captured. And basically the guard who captures him, maybe we'll consider him like a father figure to him. He basically says that, no, we'll say it's a monk. He gets captured by another monk, maybe trying to pickpocket him. He tries to intimidate the monk. It doesn't work. The monk basically kicks his butt, but then helps him out and feeds him and teaches him and helps the young man understand that his actions have consequences, not just for himself, but for those he cares about, which turns out to be these other boys, because he feels responsible for them. So he basically learns to become a monk, and he, with his newfound discipline, he starts entering in gladiatorial matches to make money, but he knows that's not enough. So he joins the Pathfinder Society because it's a means for him to not only do good for people around the world and to basically maybe atone for the sins of his past, but also because it's a way for him to make money to help support these boys that he knows, so that way he can give them a place to call home. I really like this. You see, this is what I love about role-playing games, is the character development, the character creation. This is just something I came up with in the half hour or so that we've been sitting here. But this is something awesome. All right. Alright, I gotta calm down for a moment, because next thing that I like to do is that I actually like to draw my characters. Now, it's going to be a rough drawing today because I am a very slow artist, and if you wanted to sit here and watch me draw the whole thing, we would be here forever. My drawing tablet is not working. Hold on a moment, fellas. Let's see if we can't get this to work. There we go. Alright, we are operational. So let's undo that. Let's go to a new layer. Okay, so we're talking about a tall man. I think he's going to be bald. So we're talking about a tall man. Maybe square-jawed. Broad-shouldered. Broad-chested. Alright, I made him entirely too big for the page. Well, that's okay. We can size that down. Size it down just a bit. Put him up there. Okay, so we're going to have one shoulder, bicep, tricep, because this is going to be a big guy. Arm, fist, shoulder. This is going to be a big guy. That arm is a little too big, though. Let's tone that down a bit. There we go. That's a little better. That's a lot better, actually. Okay. So let's see some lines here, so we can get an idea of what's going on. Pectorals. I haven't really decided what he's going to be wearing, but we're going to figure it out. Alright, so now we go about here. So we got one leg, the other leg, and he's still too big. Alright. Still too big for the page. Okay. So we're going to have him maybe flexing over here, or just having his fist raised. Elbow. Soften those lines up a bit. Alright, and then fist. Like so. Okay. Arm is a little low down. So we're going to bring it up a bit. Okay. Bring it up a bit. To about there. There's good. Yes. Okay. Eraser. So, alright. His legs. Kneecaps. Shins. Alright. We got 1 foot. And we're going to have another foot. And we still... Okay, you know what? Actually, his thighs are a little long. So let's actually focus in on his face. Because the face is really going to be like the main detail of the character. So let's basically just do his face here. We're going to do a brow line, a cheek, then cut down to a jaw, and maybe give him a little bit of a double chin. And then we go straight into kind of like here. Then we got his ear. I'm thinking because of his time in the gladiatorial rings and maybe the times he's gotten roughed up as a kid, he's going to have a few scars. Let's see. Let's do his nose. Let's do his brow ridge. And I did say he was going to be bald. So, like that. And then down into his neck. Alright, we go like that, and like that. Alright. So let's see here. Let's do his nose next. He's gonna have like a broken nose. He's gonna have like a bit of a little to his nose. He's gonna have like a broad nose tip with some broad nostrils. There we go. And there's his nose. All right. Eyes. Let's do mouth next, actually. He's going to be clean shaven. Maybe the nose needs to be a little lower. I think the nose needs to be a little lower. Yeah. Nose is good there. Okay. Erase some of these other lines. We don't need these anymore. Alright, so let's give him his eyebrows. He's going to have like big, bushy eyebrows. And actually, we're going to cut just a little bit out of one eyebrow. Like that. There we go. He's going to have a scar there. Because he's going to have a few scars. He's going to have a few bruises. He's going to be a little banged up because of his time spent in the gladiatorial rings and his ill-spent youth. Let's see. So we go like that. Alright, so now we got to put in his eyes. So there's one eye. And there's going to be his other eye. And let's see. I was thinking maybe a scar along the edge of his mouth here. Like that. Okay, so we got this. Let's see. No, that goes like that. All right. And then like that. Okay. Maybe not as far down an earlobe, like that. Okay, okay. Let's give him some heavier eyelids. Alright, some lines under the eyes. He's seen some things, man. He has seen some things. Okay. Alright, so line down here to his collarbone. Alright, cleaning up the line work here. Oh, somehow I erased part of his jaw. There we go. So down to the collarbone, where we go into his shoulders. He's got some strength to him, so we got to have like some definition to the shoulder, like so. And then we kind of go into the actual shoulder muscle. And I'm not too worried about what clothes he's got right now. I usually do the body first and then put clothes on top of it, so that way I have the shape figured out. So yeah, then we got like maybe the line for the pecs, and then we go across over here like that, and kind of do the same thing over here. Line up and shoulder muscle. All right, and he's actually looking pretty good. So there is our monk. There is our monk. Let's go ahead and throw some robes over him or something. Okay. So there is our monk. That is our Garundi man. We should come up with a name for him. Let's go back to Hero Lab. Let's figure out his name. What are we going to call this guy? Let's see. Now, as a nameless youth, an orphan youth, he basically could pick his own name, like whatever he wanted. The boys called him. So maybe he has a name, but he also has a nickname that he's known by, because, you know, kids, they got nicknames. They got nicknames for everything. So let's see, what would his name be? Good Garundi name. Garundi names. I don't know Egyptian names. Maybe Amen. No. Amun. I usually like using a website called Behind the Names for this. Baladesh. Amun Baladesh. And his nickname was Beater, because he'd beat the crap out of people. Amun Beater Baladesh. Nah, Beater sounds like something lewd. Let's go for something else. What kind of nickname can we have? Because, you know, nicknames are also used in the gladiatorial ring. The Mantis, because he preys on people. Amun the Mantis Baladesh. All right. So that's basically a rundown on how I build characters, guys. I like to give them a story as we go. So we got a character here who uses Intimidate on enemies that he strikes. Next chance I get, I'm going to give him the ability to... In fact, actually, let's go ahead and do that. Let's give him the fundamentals of what he is. Let's get rid of Pummeling Style. We'll take that next chance we get. But let's go ahead and go for Combat Reflexes. All right, and he's not a very good intimidator. He's not as good at it as other things that he could be good at. But I think let's take one out of knowledge history, put that in stealth, because that seems more appropriate for someone who spent his time stealing and beating things up. But yeah, that's Amun the Mantis Baladesh. This is a guy who, in his youth, was used to using intimidation and force to get what he wanted. Learned that's not the way to go. Trying to look out for his boys. He basically straightened up, and now he's trying to use what he's learned to build a better life for them. So that's the story behind him. This is a character who's going to be using his extra attacks of opportunity as a means to intimidate people, basically, and get them shaken, so that way their abilities to fight are reduced. from a mechanical standpoint, so it's a way to support his party, which is kind of neat because in a way it's like he's still throwing punches and getting into scraps to protect other people. So that's really cool. And then we got our picture of him here with a few scars on him to show the trouble he's been through. But all in all, you know, this was a good build. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'd also like to go over characters that I've built in the past, show you my thought process behind them. Try to get some actual images drawn of them because I tend to give up on them before I get this far. But hope you enjoyed the video. This is just a rundown on character creation for Pathfinder Society. If you'd like more information, I'm going to put some descriptive links in the description below to help you guys out. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe to stay tuned for future videos. And until next time, heroes, I'm PojiForce, and you guys stay awesome. Take care.